Joe Louis,
Muhammad Ali,
George Foreman,
Mike Tyson,
Manny Pacquiao,
Mr. Sandman,
King Hippo,
Butterbean,
Floyd Mayweather, and the greatest boxer of all time,
Little Mac.
I couldn't not do the Boss Nass thing. I'm sorry. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to Geeks in Our 30s. Today we're going to be talking about Punchout for the NES specifically. And so with me is Dr. Kipp Petrantonio.
Woo!
And I'm Dan Lindemann. So welcome back. If you're joining us, this is our third episode. So really excited to kick things off. Punchout is, for the unfamiliar, is a boxing game for the NES. It is a very influential game. Early Nintendo, came out in 1987. Features a character by the name of Little Mac, the greatest boxer of all time, depending on your skill set. So, Kip, let's kind of run people through the gameplay. What is it like to play Punch-Out?
So, Punch-Out is a game that essentially involves very simple controls. There's not a lot of complexity. There's a very, very small learning curve at the beginning. It's almost comparable to chess. Like, learning the rules of chess is pretty simple. There's like just a couple of pieces. They can do different moves, but what you can do with those moves gets radically more difficult quickly in a similar fashion to chess. One of the things that I think makes the game really unique is I would make the argument that it's the first ever rhythm game in the vein of Guitar Hero or like Dance Dance Revolution or anything like that, where you're actually playing a game like you're getting signals from the screen to do different moves at certain timing, and if you're off the timing, you get punished.
Yeah, and like the tells are all there. And I think one of my favorite things about Punch-Out is that it is very hard, and it's kind of die and try, but it's never unfair. Like the moves are telegraphed. Every single time that you can hit somebody is telegraphed. I think there are a couple of times in the game where you can get kind of caught in a loop of like the game behaving poorly, but overall, I mean, it's very fair. And I would say it's in the same vein as like a Guitar Hero or a DDR because of just I see a punch, you know, I dodge it because of the tell, and then I do my counter punch. Yeah, it also had the usage of like storing up super punches. So the only like cool thing that your character could do was like tiny, was the super uppercut.
I don't know what you called it, Dan, when you were a kid, but I called it the Star Punch.
Yeah, it is actually the Star Punch. I think when I was reading it up on the game earlier, it is called like his super uppercut, but it was Star Punch. I mean, it has always been Star Punch. And those are really cool.
Yeah, and there was so much satisfaction around getting a Star Punch off trying something new. So you would, you just like, there was a set pattern you would follow, and then once in a while, you'd just be like, well, what if I threw the punch before the tell? What would happen? And then you discovered it. And that discovery moment of how to secretly get a Star Punch was like, it was like fire that spread through the kid community, at least in my neighborhood, that like we would all get to the same character and then nobody would know how to beat that character, and so you'd have to have like a neighbor or something come over, and when you'd find out like, oh my gosh, if I punch that character like at that exact moment, all of a sudden I get those Star Punches and then you can advance to the next level.
Yeah, I totally remember the Bald Bull Rush.
Yeah.
The counter to that. I don't know how or when I learned about that, but I don't remember if we were able to beat Bald Bull before finding out about it.
Yeah.
But I also do remember trying to try that on Piston Honda before he does his what is it called, the whirlwind?
Yeah, it's like a
punches where he's just coming in. It's like boom,
yeah,
boom, boom. Oh man, yeah, those were great. I forgot a lot of them. I found out because I was playing just to do research for the episode, just to kick some of the cobwebs out, and it took me more than one round to beat Glass Joe, and I gotta say I'm not super proud of that. But if you don't remember where those Star Punches are, you're not gonna get nearly as far or as many points, or beat the game just as well. And I would say that's exactly the same as like the Guitar Hero star power mechanic, but just done in 1987 and set to the tune of boxing instead of Eric Clapton or.
And actually, the guy who did the soundtrack for Punchout actually also did the soundtrack for like almost all the Mario games as well. I can't remember his name, but I just remember reading that in the research for the episode, which I was like, that makes sense because
That's awesome.
That music is fantastic in the game.
Yeah.
And it was so awesome how they would sequence the training montages with Doc Lewis, who is like your like kind of trainer, and for no reason at all they would put you in a pink jumpsuit while you would run and like chase him across New York City, and they would make
there was no precedent for there being a pink jumpsuit. There was no reason that that had not come up before. Right. Like Little Mac has like white shorts and a black shirt on
he's got green shorts and green gloves.
That changes as you go up the ranks though too.
Oh, you're right. That's awesome. I completely forgot that.
Well, yeah. So I was playing with like the weird white shorts, but anyways, there's that training montage, that sound will still get me pretty hyped up. And it's definitely been influential. That was like also featured on Family Guy.
Yeah.
That's or like an homage to it. And I think I still, if I am like getting done working out, I will whistle like Punch-Out themes. And I mean, to this day, it is still the like sort of champion style, like, I just did something physical and it was amazing. And
you, at the end of the training montage, that's when you get the password, right?
Yeah. So yeah, it would tell you like your password level. Something I didn't actually ever realize was in that the amount of fights you get sent back depends only on the league that you're in right now. So in the minors and majors, you get sent back 1, but in the world class, you get sent back 2.
Oh, really?
And then if you die to Mike Tyson, you die. I remember that because that was just like, what do you mean I die?
Yeah, it's so brutal.
It's over. If I get hit at all, I just die forever.
Right.
If you die in the game, you die in real life. But luckily, the password system was able to save things. I mean, yeah, there was still it was like 7707. The password to get to, I never would go straight to Mike Tyson.
Yeah,
actually,
it was like you had to warm up. You couldn't just go straight to Tyson. He was too intense.
Yeah, which is like the purpose of like Glass Joe and things like that, was like a warm-up character.
Yeah, so talking about the title screen for a second where you put the password in, one of the best parts about that was just the sound, like sound effects at the screen, where it would be like the boxing glove hitting the screen like doo-doo, doo-doo, doo. Yeah, and so it was like if you got the password correct and you heard that noise, it was just, that made you feel so like powerful and ready, and I was pumped up from the second that game, like the second I entered the password.
Yeah.
And so that I loved that. I loved like everything about the sound effects in the game. So yeah.
It's definitely one of my favorite aspects of Punch-Out. So I think what else was kind of cool about the game was that the mechanics of it, of like the die and try, fit in the universe. For me anyways. Like, so if you really just have to find the spots where you can like gather star punches. You just have to find the spots like how to counter the punches, what the delay on each tell is before you can get ready. I was doing Don Flamenco, so like it's like I didn't know he was taunting me until I played the Wii version later, and he's just like I'm gonna say like a curse word in Spanish if I try and say the right word. It's like taunting you.
Yeah. I always thought like that sound effect always reminded me of the penguin from Batman.
Oh
like
yeah.
I was always like, oh, it just sounds like the penguin. So, well, let's just launch into that, Dan. Like, let's talk about the characters, because that's really the best part of the game. And first, just want to take ownership that the game, took place in the 80s, and a lot of the characters are like caricatures, and that's obviously bad in retrospect, and it's like a little racist and everything like that. But I mean, the game is what it is at the end of the day. And like the characters are very memorable, but yeah, like in judging from like a 2018 standpoint, I mean, it's definitely pretty offensive, I would say.
Yeah, in terms of wokeness, it's a little sleepy. They are a product of their time. So
they don't represent the beliefs or of Geeks in Our 30s Incorporated. So
I think that's good. I think we've got it.
all right, Dan. So let's just take a second and let's talk about the Glass Joe fight first.
Sure.
Like right at the beginning, because that was like he just had such a punchable face, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, and it was kind of funny because his name is Glass Joe, right? So you're not like set up with the expectation that this is going to be really hard,
right?
But no, I think that was the most disappointing thing about playing this morning was not just being able to just clobber his stupid face.
Yeah, I gotta say I'm a little disappointed in you.
Just you have no idea how disappointed I am in me over that.
I guess I never even realized that it was like a play. I can be equally stupid. I never even realized it was a play on Glass Jaw till recently.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I just caught that a second ago. I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So I'm equally stupid.
It just dawned on me, and I've been playing the game since like 1980 something. Yeah, there's like a little brief part. You can go back in the video and see like, oh.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize he was French either until the Wii version. Mm-hmm. I know that you can read that he's from France in his little like character, but like the between game bout stuff. But yeah, I think much to what we were saying about you can't go straight to Mike Tyson. You have to like warm up first. I didn't even mind as a kid starting at the beginning of the game. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could get into such a rhythm where like going from Glass Joe to Von Kaiser to Piston Honda to like you could just do it. And I know that like the only time I would ever have hiccups ever and it would be tough would be like Great Tiger. But yeah, so I think like Glass Joe just serves to get you ready to go and play the game.
Yeah. Another thing I just thought about with Glass Joe too is like it really teaches you the game. Like it's one of my favorite things about old games is they didn't have to have a tutorial. Like at no point when you start up Punch-Out is it like learn to punch up, punch down. It's just like here comes Glass Joe, really slow. Like even the music is slow, and he comes up and he's like doo doo doo. So you have all that time to be like, okay, I have to do something, and you have a basic understanding of boxing that you're either going to dodge or punch. And so I just really liked how it taught you how to play the game with like minimal punishment at the beginning. So I really love that.
Well, and two, if you try and wail on his head, he'll just block his head for a little bit.
Right. So it teaches
and then
you got to be strategic.
Yeah, I mean, I even remember the first time because I didn't know you could hold up to punch. I don't think I had read the instruction manual yet. But yeah, I was just like punching, and it was pretty cool. But then he blocks, and you're like, oh crap, I actually have to do something different here.
Mm-hmm. So okay.
Yeah. The thing that it was really difficult for me to understand was the star punches for the longest time. Like what? Because like select wasn't a button that you were like got into the habit of using.
Mm-hmm. I can honestly say that was the first time I ever pushed the select button in a game. Besides like for an options menu. Like learning to do that was really interesting. Huh. Did you ever block in the game, Dan?
No. I started blocking. It's tough because of the Wii remake has really colored how I feel and understand this game. Mm-hmm. And I used blocking in that one actually kind of a lot. Because there were a lot more punches that you could block. Mm-hmm. Where I think in the NES Punch-Out, some punches could be blocked, but that punished you. That took away your hearts. And
yeah, the only time I ever blocked in the whole game was against Tiger Ali. Is that his name?
Yep.
Yeah. When he did his move, you had to, and then he would do that like whoa, 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 and you'd punch him in the face and knock him out. And he had the best like animation because he would just go flying back.
Yeah.
That was like such an like as if your punch like launched him 25 feet.
I actually really liked both of like the early kind of scrawny fighters, Glass Joe and Don Flamenco's like woo woo
yeah.
woo woo.
Yeah.
That was. I think those are my favorite sound effects. I think we could easily probably do an entire episode on just the sound effects of the game. I think another interesting aspect about this game is that it was Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Right.
Do you remember any games before that were
like celebrity based? No, not even a little bit. Yeah, I just remember that added such a level of legitimacy to it. Like I wanted to play it to fight Mike Tyson. And how interesting is it that Nintendo, rather than having you play as Mike Tyson, had the foresight that he should be the final boss, because in order to even see Mike Tyson on the screen, you had to like put in work. Like you could not just like, oh yeah, like you had to learn the game, otherwise you were getting demolished. And I just remember seeing him on the screen and how, like, I didn't see him like naturally because I could never get past certain characters when I was like first playing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember going to a friend's house and just being so like awestruck at like actually seeing Mike Tyson visualized in the game. I'd be like, holy crap, he can get to Mike Tyson. How'd you do this? You know?
Right. Yeah, and I mean, like the likeness was there. Like he looks like Mike Tyson. And the other thing that really, really sold like just how much of a badass he was if you get touched by Mike Tyson, you instantly get KO'd. Mm-hmm. That's it, and you're not coming back. Right. Which meant that in order to beat Mike Tyson, you had to play perfectly.
Right.
And that to me is like the sort of pinnacle of what it would mean. To sort of become a boxer, right? Because in the early rounds you can make mistakes, and as you go on you can make less mistakes, but the final fight is just like Mike Tyson. He is perfect, right? Yeah. And if you get touched, you're gonna die, and you've got to start over.
Right, and his tell was so slight, like it was so minute, and then his punches would come so fast, like so much faster than everybody else. That was pretty legit. I thought you could get knocked down 3 times still with Mike.
We'll have to research it.
Maybe I can't remember, but yeah, I feel like you might be able to, but I can't remember because I remember watching my friend play and being like, "Oh man, you only got one more mistake," you know, in my head. Oh. But yeah, I just think that was awesome. I mean, Nintendo thinking to do that and like rather than having you play as Mike Tyson was genius, like in my idea, from my perspective, because it made you want to get to the boss so bad. You know what's another thing I never even thought of? The fact that it's pretty much, it has a similarity to like Shadows of the Colossus in that it's just a series of bosses.
Yeah.
And nothing else.
Yeah.
Like there's no training, there's no like littler bosses, like there's no, I mean it's just boss, hardest boss.
Yeah, I mean it's a boss rush mode, the game. I think that's kind of cool. It's an interesting point too because there isn't actually like a regular Punch-Out. You can't just go and run around New York with Doc like training up and just like punching stuff just to get used to the controls. Mm-hmm. You're in boss fight mode. That being said, if you're really good at the game, it's very fast. I don't know what the current speedrun records are, but they've got. I mean, we can glean what the shortest one it could be will be, right? Because you can't do more than X minutes on any fight. But the game could become really, really fast. I mean, I could melt through, at least the major and minor circuits in like a couple of minutes. Right. But I think that's not a common pattern. That's not something that happens anymore. Yeah. I think that is the expectation that you can get more bang for your buck nowadays. And this was a port of an arcade game. And so they were kind of dealing with some of the limitations of the system. But yeah, you're right. It's just all boss fights, which again sets it apart into its own category.
Right. Okay, so Dan, should we launch into the coup de grace of our video, which is who are your favorite characters to fight, and who was your least favorite character to fight, and why?
So I want to go worst characters first.
Okay.
And here's why. When you died, it was so much worse.
Yeah.
And I have so many like visceral feelings about these things. So my least favorite character to play against was Don Flamenco.
Wow. Barn. Yeah, how come?
So the taunting was just brutal. If you died to that, and like I do die to him, it was so much worse because of the taunting. Mm-hmm. I don't think. Oh no, they did. Some of them did. Like Bald Bull would laugh at you.
Yeah. Okay, but Don Flamenco, remind us what his taunting was.
Okay, so he was just like he would just like.
Yep.
I'm not doing it justice. We should definitely have like a video.
We'll put it right there.
Yeah. And then, which again I didn't really understand was taunting. I just thought he was just like duking and like juking and being like, nope, I'm gonna block high, gonna block low, and I didn't really know. We actually had to goad him into fighting, which is not what you do with everybody else up until that point in time. You have to like wait for them to do stuff, and if you just sit there and you don't know what to do, he's just like, come on, hit me, like do it. And I was like, how do you, it was breaking their own fourth wall.
Yeah.
And then I think the other thing that made me hate him was that he was like, he looked like Glass Joe. Like he was a scrawny fighter, but he's actually very hard to beat.
Really?
Or I thought he was very hard to beat.
Well, because you just do the left-rights, right?
Yeah.
So I always found his fight to be like, believe it or not, Dan, he was my second least favorite. So he's not my least favorite, but he's my second least. Because I thought, for a totally different reason, not because of the taunting, but because the fights were so boring. And I hate, I hate repetition. So, fact about Dr. Kipp, hate repetition in any format. Music that's repetitive, video games that are repetitive, books that are repetitive, like anything that's like they hit the same note over and over and over again, I can't handle like at all. And so with his fight, I just remember sitting there going like A B A B A B A B A B dodge A B A B like all of it.
So you don't actually have to alternate your punching hand.
Yeah, but you can go until he gets knocked down if you alternate your punching hand.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because then when he falls, he goes do 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 like.
Oh,
yeah.
Neat. I'm gonna go downstairs after this and play it to do that. No, I always thought that I just did that out of like style points.
Oh wow, yeah, no, that actually it was like it was very similar to Tecmo Super Bowl. Like when you run away, you have to go
right,
like that,
zigzag
like
up and down the screen because
right.
your diagonal run is faster than the programmed AIs.
So for some reason, you go left and right, he would fall down. So that's what I meant by it was just boring because once you punch him, he would do his big uppercut, and then you just go.
Right.
I used to like purposely mess it up just to make the fight more interesting.
Throw the fight, get a bunch of money for it.
Mike Tyson's like, you threw the fight.
Yeah, I would not mind like a sub game of like you bet on other fighters and like some
Doc
people.
Lewis, like there's a newspaper with Doc Lewis being like, I'm so ashamed. I dedicated my life to Little Mac.
Yeah, no, I didn't like it. I didn't like losing to him, and it would upset me losing to him, and like it sort of broke its own formula. I think that's why Don Flamenco really bugged me. Yeah. But I wound up liking an aspect of a different fighting game, which was in Mario Lemieux Hockey for the Sega Genesis. So in that game, if you got into a hockey fight, which is really easy to trigger, if you lost the fight, you got a penalty for getting beat up.
I remember that. That was so awesome.
Yeah.
So there was like a benefit, which makes no sense. As if you lost the fight, getting the penalty box, you shameful.
Right.
Crap.
I mean, I think that's kind of in the spirit of hockey, but it's also just a cruel mechanic.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what about you? So who, if Don Flamenco's number 2, who is the worst character for you?
The worst character in the game is Soda Popinski.
Really?
Yeah, I hate Soda Popinski for a couple of different reasons. Number one is his physical look in the game is so different, and like that hyper pinkish white color he is. Like if you look at I'll try to put it on the video. If you look at a screen cap of all the bosses, he just stands out because he's such a different color than everybody, and he's so misshapen. And then the way he would laugh at you when you lost, and I would lose to him often because he has 3 variations of an uppercut, and they're like hard to telegraph because all 3 of them involve him going down, but it's a matter if he does like the super low uppercut, which if you hit him in the stomach, you can get a star, or like the kind of low uppercut, or like the high up uppercut, and I just never could get the rhythm down with him, and so I could never get past him as a kid. Like, he was my end point. For a while, King Hippo was my end point, but then I remember my neighbor, his name was Jeremy Schwabach, came over my house and taught me the secret. You know what else was weird about King Hippo really quick? He had like a bandage over his belly button. Almost as if like when they cut his umbilical cord, it was like a prop. There was complications.
He's from Hippo Island. It's supposed to be like which is a real place, turns out. But the actual Hippo Island, I do not believe would be anything like the fictional Hippo Island that he's from. King Hippo's the only, maybe not the only, but is a character from a fictional place, and is also a stereotype. but of a fictional place.
Yeah.
Everything else is like from Berlin, from Moscow, from Paris, and they're their regional stereotype.
Yeah, I always thought he was he was basically like an anamorph. You know, like he was a hippo man. Like what what you'd get if you combined a hippo and a human being.
Yeah.
Like, he also, you know what was interesting? It's funny that Nintendo has had this commitment to like tiny crowns that extend up off the top of things' heads. Like Koopa has that same type of crown. Princess Peach had that same kind of crown. That was like a very 80s style crown, was to have it be like tiny off the side, like, and then expands outward.
Yeah. No, it's also Wart from Mario 2.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that was their crown. That was the way that Nintendo decided to to have any type of royalty signified, was in an awkward crown. But so Soda Popinski was like the worst. He bothered me, and he was the stage I could never get past. I think after him was like Super Macho Man or something, but I could like never get there. Like I just remember playing and finally being like, I'm never going to beat Soda Popinski, and I loved Soda. So there was this internal conflict for me that I couldn't really quite get past as a child. So
yeah, I mean, he's just telling you about the power struggle of he has soda and you don't.
Yeah,
you know.
And as a poor child, that was very difficult for me.
Gotta think about it, man. That's why these things are upsetting.
All right, Dan. So what's your favorite character in
We
Punch
don't
Out?
actually have to segue because Soda Popinski is my favorite character to beat.
Okay, so tell me, and then I'll tell you why you're wrong.
Yeah, no, perfect. This is good. This is a healing session. So the reason Soda Popinski is my favorite is because his left hand punches were faster. Every one of his left attacks is better than his right attack. And I just that was a time when they changed up the formula, and it was like, whoa, handedness. Like, that's a real advantage in boxing. That was like, that upped the ante of the things that were going to be possible. Yeah, I don't know. I saw the tells a lot better with him, and so I enjoyed fighting it because I was like on the lookout for the like left hand punches.
Oh my gosh, I needed you.
Yeah.
I needed you as a child.
We should have hung out as
I
kids.
know. If we would, you would have been my savior if you could have come to my house and beat Soda Popinski.
Driven 8 hours.
Oh my gosh, if you would have been able to do that, that would have been fantastic.
Yeah,
Right.
for me, Macho Man was always the end point. So that's like, I have the same feelings you have about Soda Popinski, but about Macho Man.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
He, I can't believe it. Like the color of him didn't bother. He just was so that like ugly pinkish, like white color, and just like how he was shaped. Like he creeped me out. Even seeing him on screen, I was like, oh, there's something. And like, why was he so into soda pop? Like what?
Soda Pop.
Yeah.
Well, because the arcade version, actually, his name was Vodka Drunkinsky, right?
Yeah. So he was like supposed to be like a Russian stereotype of some kind or something. But
Yeah.
like, I don't know. But I didn't know that. You know, as a kid, I was just like, oh, he's super into soda. You know,
That'll make him be able to fight people better.
yeah. Like, so okay, all right.
Yeah. How about you? Who's your favorite?
So my favorite character of all time is Bald Bull. Because Bald Bull is kind of like the staple character. When you think of Punch-Out, he is kind of the coup de grace. He's like hard enough where it's a challenge and you can't beat him without being good at the game, but it's not so hard that you're like, oh, unless I've like mastered this, I can't go past him. He's also like usually that first stopping point for people where they like struggle in the game. So I just remember playing Bald Bull and like learning that bull rush and how awesome it was when you hit him in the stomach and how he would cripple, like how he would fall. It just played on the character dynamics so well because Bald Bull was by far the biggest character, like the up to that point that you'd see in the game.
Huge.
Right, and Little Mac is so tiny, and there's just it's like the like a mouse and an elephant or something, you know. It's like or David and Goliath kind of moment where you just that little tap in the stomach just like knocks him down, and how he falls from that, like he's like like that was so satisfying and so awesome. And it was such an empowering moment as a character to feel
Right.
that, like, oh my gosh, I figured out the secret. Because how many times when you first played the game did Bald Bull knock you over the bull rush? Because everybody would try to beat him by you couldn't avoid it. So it was just, it's kind of like the blue shell, right? It was just kind of inevitable that you're going to like, oh, he's doing the bull rush. I guess I'm going to lose. So you try to knock him out fast enough where he wouldn't do the bull rush 3 times and then you could win. And I think you could actually do it without blocking the bull rush. But once you figured that out, it was just like it clicked.
Game changer. Yeah. Yeah, I think that was the first one where it was kind of obviously a puzzle, too. Because the other ones, they did have puzzles. Great Tiger is before Bald Bull. Is that correct?
Yeah, he's like, isn't he is he after Piston Honda?
Might be. No.
It goes Glass Joe, Von Kaiser,
Yeah.
Piston
the
Honda,
next-
right? And then Tiger Ali?
I just played this morning. No, Don Flamenco is right after Piston Honda.
But for some reason, they make you fight Don Flamenco twice.
Yeah.
Remember that? That's maybe why we were confused, because the first time the trick works, and then the second time I think it doesn't work.
That might be it.
Yeah, that might have been it. I forgot. And he changes his outfit.
Mm-hmm.
So I always made up a little story in my head that like he got like so pissed off and went home because he lost, and then he like was like training in the gym and he learned, and then he like rose the ranks because there was a whole ranking system too in the game. It'd be like, you've graduated to the heavyweights or whatever.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So they actually do play that up in the Wii version of it too. Like that's the story. So when you start playing if you go through the first round of the game, it's everybody kind of as they are. And then in the Wii version, like for example, King Hippo actually duct tapes a sewer to his, like a sewer lid to his stomach, so you can't hit him there.
Wow.
Until you knock it off. So I think that was what most people thought the game was. And I think that was sort of like the mechanic that was at play there. It was like, oh, he's back. Like, and you obviously have to fill in the details somehow.
Yeah, he's figured out my tricks. So, well,
Which is
anyway,
punch in the face.
Cool. So that's that's probably where we should stop on Punchout today. That's where I'm feeling a little punched out in terms of talking about Punchout.
Technical knockout.
So, what do you think about Punchout, dear viewer? Who is your favorite character? Let me and Dan know. Are we wrong? Is our choices terrible? Are there better characters? Are there worse characters? What were dynamics of the game that you like? Let us know down in the comments below. All that good stuff. And that's it for Geek in Our 30s.
Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you soon.
Peace. Okay, I've already got us recording here, Dan, so
I'm just going to stay like this the whole time then.
that sounds good.